Okay, hi, my name is Ted Crow, and I am the Barefoot Craftsman. The Barefoot Craftsman. My stuff.
I'm here for one reason only, to speak English.
Okay, my name is Ted Crow, and I am the Barefoot Craftsman.
Hi, I'm Sophia Crow. I'm the Barefoot Craftsman's wife.
We are working on a TV stand. It was made out of particle board. There is a veneer on it. In the last episode, what we did was we sanded it down, and we used a very low grain or rough grain sandpaper and a power sander. That finish, the way that it's left, will not work too well. You need to sand it down further. Since this is a high or fine grade sandpaper, we don't really need to worry too much about what the grain pattern is, because it's so fine it won't actually leave scratches in the wood. My coffee and my cigarette, my coffee and my cigarette, my coffee and my cigarette. Always need your coffee and your cigarette. And my lighter, and we are going to sand it down. So let's get started. Got a bunch of dust up my nose. Got to do a field blow.
Well, that just sucks. Oh, that one confused even me. The phrase field blow, in reference to blowing one's nose, did confuse me somewhat. So that it would mean something, I submitted it to Urban Dictionary with the definition: blowing one's nose with extreme force while plugging one nostril.
Got all the pieces here. They're all sanded. Here's the base, the two side rails, the uprights for both sides, and the top. Yeah, we sanded them. Okay, if you remember, this is the piece that attaches the bottom and top pieces so that it stands upright. This is the top of that piece, and this was particle board in here, and it fell apart. And based on what I'm seeing with the wood itself, or the faux wood, it's not real wood, it's particle board with a grain embedded in it, is that it has some dark spots, and my guess is that this is water damaged. In fact, it gave me the thought that maybe there's a lot of furniture out there that came out of furniture stores after Hurricane Katrina, and they're being still sold. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this piece out and we're going to use it as a template to make a new piece. Might be a little more difficult than I thought because it's glued in, which means I'm going to have to break it. And there's one on both ends. FYI, it's not a good idea to do this towards yourself, because this is a sharp instrument.
I believe the word that my husband was struggling so hard to find was instrument, and the good news was that he found it. Bad news was it took him a little while.
I am a trained professional. There's two sides to this thing, and you'll notice one side it's all straight, the other side has bevel to it, and the reason for that is so that it can make an edge, but basically you can use both sides of it. If you use this side down, if you use this side down, what you'll get is you'll get a prying action as you move along, and it'll pry everything up. It'll also do the same thing if you turn it this way, but it will push down. So if you have wood down here that you don't want to damage, you want to use it this way. If you want to dig into the wood, you want to turn it over. Okay, we got all the particle board out of the end of this thing, and now I'm going to measure it and draw a little diagram of the piece of wood that needs to fit in there, and there'll actually be 4 pieces. I'm going to measure it now and make a piece that fits in there. And I'm going to check to make sure that they're all about the same. And they are. Yippee. Kind of smoke. Okay, while you were gone, or I was gone, I found this piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and that's what I'm going to be using for the spacers. I call them spacers. The inserts that'll hold the eyelet that you can screw into. And first thing I need to do is cut it for width, and the piece that I found isn't quite long enough to make all 4 pieces that I need, but it is long enough that if I divide it up into 4 pieces equally, it will serve the purpose.
We do not worship fish here, and I think the word that the Barefoot Craftsman was looking for was serve the purpose.
First thing I'm going to do is set my blade on my table saw to a depth or a height, whatever you want to call it, so that the blades just protrude. And I've already set my fence to the width that I like, and I'm going to cut it. Alright, if you noticed, I did not use any safety guards, any safety equipment, or anything like that.
Oh dear.
Mainly because I'm from Appalachia, and sometimes we just do things.
Let me clarify this. I'm not sure you should take his advice about safety.
So the next thing I'm going to do is divide it up into 4 pieces. So the length is roughly 35 1/4. Half of a quarter is 1/8. Half of 35 is 1, 15, 7, 17 and a half, 17 and a half, and an eighth is 17 and 5/8. Half of 5/8 is 5/16.
Kind of makes sense.
Half of 17 is 8 and a half.
Appalachia as a second language.
8 and a half and 5/16 is 8 and 13/16. So 4 pieces at 8 and 13/16.
They do say smoking cigarettes causes carbon monoxide poisoning, which can lead to brain damage, and ultimately I'm smoking. Moving on.
And the way I'm going to make that happen is with a fence and miter. See the dangers of doing things the way I do it? There you go, 4 pieces, all the same length, all the same thickness, all the same width. So let's knock those edges off. Alright, if you're wondering why I picked plywood to do it, which you probably aren't, you're probably just saying, oh, you use plywood. The reason being is it actually works out better in a structural purpose, and this is a structural piece. And the reason it works out better is because if you look at this, you can see there's a grain here, and then there's multiple layers of wood that are glued together, and the way that they do that is they alternate the direction of the grain. So it actually makes a much stronger product, and I'm using it. One of the great things about restoration or refurbishing or restoring furniture and other things is that somebody's already done all the math and all the measuring and cutting and all that kind of stuff, so you don't have to do it. And what I got here is these are the pieces, the hardware that came off out of the broken piece of particle board. And what I've done is I've laid my new piece in there, and I've laid the hardware on top of it. And if you can see where the stain from when it was stained before left lines. So that gives me a pretty clear indication of where this plate should actually lay on top of my new piece of wood. And all I need to do is to mark where the holes need to be cut for the eyelet, the threaded eyelet that I'm going to put in there. And as far as the position of where this plate goes, you can see where there is a depression cut out in both sides of this wood side piece. So if I just center everything up and get it in where it needs to be, right in the right plane, make sure it's all square, perpendicular, or whatever you want to call it, then if I just mark it out, then I can do it. And I'm going to have to mark both sides of this plate so that when I put the plate on there, it'll actually fit down inside of that depression. And we'll be using the table saw to do that too. Alright, we were working on the TV stand, and my camera out in the shop, they ran out of film. Well, ran out of tape on the thing. So basically, I came in here, and I'm going to tell you what happened. I didn't cut off any fingers. They're all still there. We used the table saw after we cut out the holes drilled the holes for the bolts for the plate that fits on the pieces of wood that I just cut,
and I'm sorry that you didn't get to see the table saw action because it was quite phenomenal. There was pieces of wood flying everywhere, hitting me in the stomach. I cut some of the times with my eyes closed. It was great. You should have seen it. But anyway, you missed it. What are we doing next? Oh, we're going to attach the pieces and kind of put it together so that we can stain the product.